Sunday night. Okay, so Stats and I will be talking about the Sunday night football game on Monday morning while you are asleep. It will be Chiefs at Seahawks, a game that kept getting bigger and bigger last week. Once the Chiefs lost to the Chargers, that game goes next level. Once the Seahawks lost to the 49ers, that game goes even higher level. A lot riding on it. The Seahawks still haven't won a playoff berth. The Chiefs are looking at either the 1 seed or the 5 seed based upon how the rest of the season shakes out. This is a huge, huge game, and it's two very different styles coming together in one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is going to get another primetime test, and we'll find out whether or not he can pass it, Chris.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's an awesome game. This will be one of the toughest tests he's had as a young quarterback, just as far as dealing with the environment. Seattle is so loud, it will make your brain shake at times when you're at the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's the kind of loudness that's in that stadium. So it's electric. I guess I would say this. The fascinating thing for the Chiefs is they're playing the same defense for the second week in a row. The Chargers, their defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, he came from Seattle. Seattle runs the same defense the Chargers run. And we just saw the Chiefs kind of struggle finding big pass plays against the against the Chargers defense. So I worry about that with Seattle. And as we've seen from Seattle all year long, they are so much better at home, especially their defense. Their defense lets up a lot of big plays on the road, but the crowd and the home field advantage that crowd does give the defense at home makes them a different team altogether. Playing on that field turf makes their front seven extremely fast, and I think all those aspects. The thing with the Kansas City Chiefs, they got to find some ways to find some explosive plays on their offense. It's killing them that they're missing Sammy Watkins. I think people forget that they're paying him Odell Beckham Jr. money, and they're not getting their money's worth right now, and they need their offense to be healthy and hitting on all cylinders if they want to go to the Super Bowl, because their defense is not good. And I have a hard time thinking that they're going to stop Seattle's offense a whole lot. Seattle can run the ball, and then Seattle wide receiver, it's not like the best in football, but it's dangerous, right, Mike? I mean, every week we see Russell Wilson throwing bombs down the field to Lockett or Doug Baldwin or whoever it may be. And I just think because Kansas City's going to be worried about stopping that Seahawks run game, they're going to have to play some man-to-man on the back end. And Russell and the run game and everything, they'll make enough plays. And I favor the Seahawks in this one right now.
You mentioned Sammy Watkins. He did not practice again on Wednesday. He first missed a game November 11 against Arizona with that foot problem. And then he came back for the 54-51 Classic against the Rams, but he had one catch for 4 yards before he left again. Then, since the bye week, games against the Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, Watkins has not played. No indication when he's going to be back. But when you take him out of the mix, it makes it so much easier to focus on Tyreek Hill. And they don't have someone else who can step up and get it done the way Watkins did. And yes, they're not getting their money's worth. He actually got a better contract than Odell Beckham Jr. because it's shorter. And who knows how long of a stay he's going to have in Kansas City if he can't play.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, anytime I evaluate a team, the first thing I do is go, okay, who's being paid and are they getting their money's worth out of what, position or area that they've invested their money in? And Kansas City said it's offense and we're going to out-shoot out you. That's what they want to do. They're not into playing defensive struggles. And I think they can win a shootout against any team in football if Sammy Watkins is healthy. But if he's not, they're not the type of team, Mike. The thing I worry about with them in this matchup and what I saw with the Chiefs offense versus the Chargers last week, the Chiefs just run their plays. They're not like a game plan specific play or offense, I should say. As like the Seattle opponent last week, the San Francisco 49ers, if anybody saw the highlights or watched that game, I know you did, Stats, you saw wide open people all over the field for the 49ers, right? Yes, because Kyle Shanahan, he knows that Seattle scheme, and he exposed some of the rules within that scheme. Kansas City doesn't look to do that. Andy Reid, he's a great offensive mind, but he just throws a barrage of plays at you, and he teaches his players how to execute those plays no matter what the defense is. And the quarterback goes, okay, they played this defense, this is how I run this play. And if they played this defense, this same play, I run it that way. So they know how to execute all these plays versus specific looks, but they don't come into the game with specific game plan type plays. And if they do the same thing they did last week, which was just send people deep, and the Chargers played soft zone coverage, yeah, they became stagnant. And we know Andy Reid can be a little reluctant to stay patient with the run game at times.
And I know that we've had this discussion in the past about primetime versus afternoon. I still think there's something different about primetime. The crowd's more intense.
Sure.
The moment feels bigger. And we've seen the Chiefs now. Look, they had the great comeback against the Broncos back in Week 4, but since then, the loss to the Rams in prime time, the loss to the Chargers last week in prime time, and the loss to the Patriots earlier in the year in prime time. They weren't blown out in any of those games. All were 3 points or less by way of a margin, but boy, that just either you have the ability to close the deal or you don't. And I think at a certain point, if you continue to not get it done in those spots, it kind of takes on a life of its own. And that's going to be hovering over this team. You throw those struggles in big games this year, on top of the fact that they haven't won a playoff game at home since Joe Montana was the quarterback, there is plenty of reason for Chiefs fans to be losing sleep as we get closer and closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, I think close the deal is exactly the right way to put it. I mean, they were up 28-14 and had a fourth down on that first drive that the Chargers made it 28-21 to close the deal. They had 2 fourth downs on the second drive when the game was 28-21 to close the deal and end the game. They couldn't do that in that situation. They could never make the big stop against the Rams to kind of get off the field and give their team a chance that way. So that's where, I look at it and go, it's tough for their defense to close the deal. Their offense has to close the deal. That's what it is. And without Sammy Watkins, I don't know if they're a team that can get to the Super Bowl, but I think if they do have a healthy Sammy Watkins, I look at the Chiefs and go, no, watch out for them, because their offense can be so overwhelming with all those weapons when they are healthy that I don't even know if it matters about their defense. They can put you in such a tough spot early on, like we saw them get off to this great start this season, where everybody would look up and go, damn, we're down 21-3 and we've had the ball 6 plays. Like, how did this happen? And that's how they've overwhelmed you to start the season, and they've kind of lost that mojo here as of late.
By the time we get to Sunday night, the Chiefs will know whether or not the number 1 seed is available to them to possibly clinch, because if the Chargers lose on Saturday night, if the Texans lose or tie earlier in the day to the Eagles, the Chiefs will know. You win, and they have the number 1 seed, and then they can kind of coast if they choose to. There's always some risk in coasting in Week 17 if you have the bye. Maybe by the time it's time to play again, you may not be as sharp as you need to be. But the Chiefs will have a pretty good idea of what's going on by the time the game starts.
Yeah, it does seem they will. I mean, that's of course one of the great races to watch right now. And I mean, I think the other, for conversation purposes, I think the interesting thing is, what happens if the Chargers and the Chiefs both lose this weekend, right? And then they fall to, they're both at 11-4. Who wins the tiebreaker? And I don't even know the answer to this. Who wins the tiebreaker between the 2 AFC West teams and, let's say, the Houston Texans, if they all end up having the same record when it's all said and done? Because that's going to be interesting too. Right.
The Chiefs have the head-to-head tiebreakers 1-1.
Right.
The Chiefs have the better division record for now, so they've got the edge, and so it could get more complicated after next week, because the Chiefs have the Raiders and the Chargers have the Broncos, but the Texans have the door open.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the one thing. We're focused so much on Chiefs versus Chargers as the 1 seed.
Right.
The Texans, who have never even had a bye week in the postseason, could end up the number 1 seed, so they're in this as well. And the Seahawks, as I said, they still haven't nailed down their own playoff berth, and they're going to be trying to do that as well. Talking about that Chiefs defense before we take a break.
Yeah, sure.
Eric Berry fully participated in practice for the first time all year.
Right.
He played half of the game on last Thursday against the Chargers. And I know how bad the back end of the Chiefs defense is. Does having Berry back, does that help?
It does.
Is it enough?
It does help.
Does it make you feel better about the Chiefs defense?
Yes, it does make me feel better. When I see him out there playing a full game and healthy, he has a presence about him. He did a nice little job in the first half last week in that football game before he came out for good. And kudos to the Chiefs for not trying to, overdo it his first game back and then re-aggravating the injury where they don't have him for the playoffs. I think that was a smart move. But yes, Mike, I mean, not only communication purposes, when I watch film, he's the quarterback of the defense. He's just got an uncanny ability to read read and react to plays. He even helps out in the run game. He's so quick to diagnose the run plays. He's down there in the hole just like a linebacker right away. And I at least think when they get in the playoffs and he is totally 100%, that he could be a guy on a big 3rd and 4 who could man up with Antonio Gates or Rob Gronkowski and go, nope, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And they don't really have that guy. So that's the added incentive he can bring to that defense.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.